important aspect of the church and its ministry to our community. As we see all of you here, indeed, again, I say welcome on behalf of the church, the elders, the members, and we welcome our community friends. We're going to invite you to bow your heads with us as we pray. We want to begin this town hall meeting with a word of prayer this evening, and so we invite you to bow your heads at this time. Gracious Father, we thank you for bringing us into this place and for the opportunity we have to impact our communities and brighten the corners where we exist. Bless the presenters this evening and the subject that we shall look at. May it help to enlighten, to educate, and also motivate us to action so that we can make a difference in our communities and in the lives of men and women. We pray and we thank you for hearing and answering in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Our theme for this evening is End It Now. The Seventh-day Adventist Church, way back in 2001, the Women's Ministries Department of the Church of the General Conference of our world headquarters joined forces with our youth and other ministries to launch Abuse Prevention Day on the 4th Sabbath of August of that year. It was for the purpose of educating and also bringing about healing in the areas of domestic violence. So the ministries, the departments launch this under the theme, End It Now, as a program to gather 1 million signatures to send a petition to the United Nations to end violence against women and children in particular. A few years later, the leaders decided to use the term End It Now in the place of abuse prevention. The church continues to promote this day because abuse among Adventists matches that figures of victims of the wider community. We are not exempt. Of course, we are also mandated to make a difference in the environment in which we live. And so domestic violence between intimate partners, abuse, child abuse, incest, etc., is far too often an occurrence amongst church and the wider community. End It Now is designed to address the need of education and healing. And so this evening, I'm delighted to have with us one of our own ladies who work in this area, Mrs. Elaine Sands, and we welcome her and her team this evening. And I'm going to allow her to introduce her team. And then we will move right into the address this evening. And so, Mrs. Sands, we welcome you and your team from the ministry this evening. And please lead us right into the presentations. And then we will have some question and answers at the end. Mrs. Sands.
Yes, Pastor. A pleasant good evening to everyone. And Pastor Scavella, we are so grateful to you for inviting us from the Department of Gender and Family Affairs, situated in the Ministry of Social Services. That is located on JFK Drive in Bethel Avenue. And our entire team is in this meeting this evening. And we have our very own director with us. That's Director Dr. Jacinta Higs, who will also be presenting. We have Henry Johnson, and Henry Johnson is the lone male officer in the department. And he's the first male to take on the role where he's looking out for the interests of men in the country. And so we are happy to have him to present for a few minutes. Also in the house, we have Jacinta Roberts, who is one of our specialists. We have Lynn Simonet. She's one of the senior persons in Department of Gender and Family Affairs. We have Elaine Hinsey. We have Gail. I can't pronounce Gail's last name. The name is too huge, so I can't pronounce her name. But we have Gail. We have Michaela Major. We have Alicia Roll. We have Torre Musgrove. And we also have Simone Bridgewater. And she's one of our domestic violence intervention supervisors as well in the Department of Gender and Family Affairs. And this evening, we are going to be talking, yes, we're going to talk about the family. We're going to talk about a little bit about COVID. We're going to look at the United Nations, some of their statistics, and what UN women, what the United Nations women, what they are saying about this pandemic and the violence. We will also look at the biblical history of abuse of women. That's from the Bible perspective. And we also will look to see what Jesus is saying, what Jesus said, and how he protected a woman from being abused in the Bible. And so this is exactly what we're going to be looking at this evening, all right? And I would like to begin, and once I am finished, you will have Henry Johnson. And after Henry Johnson, our main speaker, Director Higgs, will come on. So Henry and I will speak for a few minutes. And so I hope I'm able to share my screen. If I can share my screen.
Yes, you are a co-host, so you should be able to, once you have the PowerPoint open.
Okay. If Henry can assist me.
Okay, Ms. Sands, I'll share it for you.
Yes, please. Appreciate
Coming up
that.
right now. You see it?
Henry. Okay.
Your screen is up. See it?
Yes, I can see it. Hold just
Okay.
a minute. One moment. I just need to remove. Yes. Okay, so this evening we are talking about family abuse in the pandemic. Can you move it for me, Henry? Okay, the Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development, Department of Gender and Family Affairs is on an aggressive mission can you?
Yes.
Henry, it went back to the first screen.
No, it's on the right one now. Unless you did something.
Just one moment, one moment.
You could see it? Can everyone see the second with the Ministry of Social Services?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Sands probably having technical difficulties seeing hers.
Or she may be on her slide PowerPoint.
Right. Come off your slide, Ms. Sands, and just I'll move
Follow
the
the
slide for
screen.
you.
Yeah.
I can hear you all, but what happened is my screen went out. So Henry, what you can do is maybe you can go ahead and begin your presentation because I am having difficulty. I will have to come back.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Okay, good night, everyone. Everyone can see the screen in the front of you?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, good night, everyone. Again, my name is Henry Johnson. I'm the male program coordinator in the Department of Gender and Family Affairs. As Ms. Sands already alluded to, I'm the lone male among many women, but it's a joy. Thank you, Pastor. I appreciate that. But tonight we're going to discuss from the male perspective and family abuse and COVID-19 pandemic from the male aspect and perspective. As we're seeing here, we're depicting what is the family. And as you see on the screen, there are 6 basic family structures. 1, the nuclear family, which consists of 2 parents and a child or children. The single parent, which is a single parent who alone has his or her children. The extended family, which is 2 or more adults who are related either by blood or marriage or living in the same home. Then you have the childless family, which is a couple who either cannot or choose not to have children. Then you have the step or the blended family. As we all know in the Bahamas, we use the term step. So that's where step come in us, but the United States and around the world use the term blended family, where you have 2 separate families who merge or who would have married and had children prior to their marriage would come in to have a family now. Then you have the grandparent family, whereas the children are raised by their grandparents. And I'm just depicting what a whole big family would look like. If we all can see, it's just you have adults and you have families. So this is a big blended family here. And now, in the Bahamas, we have it where we have 5 main commonly structures in the family as it relates to the Bahamas. 1, the single family, again, which is a parent and a child combination. The nuclear family, where it's a married couple and 1 or more with unmarried kids. Then again, the blended or the step family, which is a married couple and from previous relationship having children. The extended family, where we have multiple generations of family relatives residing in the same household. Then you have the common law family, an unmarried couple where 1 or both may still be legally married to someone else who have been committed in a committed relationship or cohabitating for more than 8 years according to our Bahamian law with more than 1 child. Again, a nice depiction of a family cohabitating together, enjoying a book. Now, men. When men in any one of these types of family, they're looked at as the provider, the protector, and the priest. And these are sacred, as our director would say, these are sacred things that are placed upon men. When you're a provider, you are the person who provides and ensures that your family has what they need to be able to survive. When he is the protector, he would ensure that his family is protected by being safe when he is around. And being the priest of the home, he then would have himself where he would be the pastor of the home, to be able to engage in religious activities, to lead his family in prayer and fasting and all activities as it relates to religious and non-religious aspects. In an essay, and this essay was submitted by a person a student in school. It was entitled Responsibilities of Man in the Family. And the student wrote this: the man in the family plays a very important role in the family. He has to perform the duty of not only the husband, the father, but also the mental leader. As a husband, he has to understand, sympathize with his wife or his soulmate. As a father, he has taken the responsibility to teach his son and his daughter skills needed to become good individuals in society. As a mental leader, he has to remain calm and strong in any situation, and it is not easy to perform all these tasks perfectly or simultaneously, but with a strong heart and a clear determination, nothing is impossible. And this was by a student, and I just felt it was something that needed to be shared from a perspective of a child who is having understanding what a male actually needs to be doing and what he does when he's in his home. Now, challenges being faced by men. Jobs. Right now, we're in this pandemic, and men are at wit's end, most of them, who are not at this time having jobs because it's uncertain. You can't provide for your family. As I depicted before, you have to be the provider, you have to be the priest, and you have to be the protector. When a man doesn't have a job to be able to help sustain his family, he then feels less than a man because he's unable to do those 3 primarily things sometimes, which is to be a provider, to be able to protect her, and to be a priest. And I say that because he's not working, so he can't provide. To be the protector, he's feeling less than a man because he's not being able to provide, so he doesn't even feel like he can protect. And then when it comes to his spiritual aspect, For him to now take on being the priest, he feels slighted because he feels now this is where he feels in some way slighted that God has forgotten him. But lo and behold, does he know this is just as in the old days in Egypt, you have 7 years of famine and 7 years of plenty. But on to point 2, health. How can I stay healthy? And if I were to get the virus, if a man was to get sick, again, he can't provide for his family and he's less than what he felt as being a protector in his family. Because if for whatever reason he is faced or his family is faced with probably an intruder in their homes, he's unable to protect because he's at his weakest right now if he may get sick in any form, even though it might be this COVID-19, but any which way he may be sick, he is unable to protect his family. And then how can he deal with it psychologically? Because it plays on your mind as a male. You're already depressed because you don't have a job. So you right now are unstable and unable to really think clearly of the things that are truly affecting what needs to be done to really protect your family as the male of the home. So then again, in him going through the psychological aspects in his head, he may rise up and start to be violent in the home, which is a no-no, but these are things that just happen for whatever reason. So these things start to come out where a man is upset because he's unable to do what he's normally capable of doing to help ensure that his family does and needs to help make the family smooth, to have a good transition of providing. And then you look at death. Sometimes when we are not prepared and you have a premature death, as some persons may call it, you may feel that I didn't do what I'm supposed to do to ensure that my family are taken care of. So now he have this on his mind, and according to the CDC in America, they say more men than women are dying of COVID-19, and they are not even sure up to the day as to why. But with this statistic, this right here puts another strain on men because, again, like we know, men, we don't talk. So with us not being able to vent and let persons know how we truly feel because of the construct that society has placed men in what we call the male box. It plays a mind game on men that when they are feeling bad and want to cry, they are unable to because for whatever reason, men are not supposed to cry publicly. If you're going to cry, go inside one corner, go inside your closet, but you don't let no one in public see you cry. So that's a social construct that society has placed on men. Now, these are some common overlooked signs of depression in men. And I'm sure somewhere or the other, we as individuals in the audience today would have seen probably something of this. Physical pain, backache, frequent headaches, can't be able to sleep, and having sexual dysfunction and digestive orders. These things play a pivotal role in the man being able to function as a man. Then you see his anger comes out. This can take on many forms, such as sensitivity, criticism, to road rage, or even violence. Some men even become very abusive. And for various reasons, again, because he's depressed with the fact that he's unable to provide for his family because he doesn't have a job. Then you have the reckless behavior. A man might start pursuing extreme sports, substance abuse, have unsafe sex, and drive recklessly. And these things are prevalent in society, especially when, again, we as men tend to have an area where we are unable to truly show our true feelings. So we keep everything in and unable to vent because, again, society has told us that we are unable to show our true feelings. But what society has forgotten is, as men, we are human beings first. And as human beings, we are unable to show our feelings, which is one of them is to cry. So suicide statistics as a challenge that men face. In America, we have 16.2 minutes a person dies of suicide. And suicide is the third leading cause of deaths among young adults between 15 and 24. Men are even 4 times more likely to commit suicide than females. This is a serious indictment. And this again is predicated on the fact that men don't talk about their feelings. We are not gonna go to a specialist to talk about it because, again, we don't share our feelings to anyone except probably a barber, a friend who is close enough, who we are sure are not gonna share our feelings with anyone and tell what we have discussed. Then you have 50% the suicide is caused by guns. And the rate inside males again is at persons at a higher age of 85 years and older. But we are seeing it in our society where many males are taking their lives for various reasons. And for this, we are truly in awe that this is going on when there's so many avenues to be able to find help, to be able to deal with the issues that we face as males. We then engage in alcohol abuse, drug abuse, and many other things that are not conducive or positive that we should be able to engage to help show our children, for one, that we as men are able to face the challenges that are being out there as men. Here are 6 steps that men could use to help prevent domestic violence. 1, we need to know the emotional triggers. That is, for us to know what our feelings are when we are angry. If we are overwhelmed, if we are disrespected, if we feel entitled, we are insecure, or we are ashamed by whatever situation that may be overwhelming us. And we need to notice the warning signs, such as stress, when our heart rates may beat a little bit more frequently than it normally does, negative thoughts, and having to raise our voices when we don't have to. So we need to stop, take a deep breath, consider our options. It helps to be able to do this regularly because it will help you to calm down. Then you look at, if we take a time out, the problem will not change, but how we deal with it and how we reply to these negative thoughts with gratitude for what you do have in this time. But we need to also not to forget to take care of ourselves. And this is something, again, men, we are guilty of, which is we don't like to take care of ourselves. We like to take care of everybody else. We feel a little ache and pain in our bodies, and we would not want to go to the doctor until we are pushed by our wives and significant others. And this is something we need to take seriously. When we have aches and pains inside our bodies, whatever it is, go and seek a trusted physician to be able to help guide you, because you do not know what it is. But if we take care of ourselves, then we'll be able to take care of others. I tell my wife sometime and others, we need to use the airplane rule. And the airplane rule is to take care of self before you can take care of somebody else, which is to put the mask on you and then you help others. And that's something we need to take on to as men. And lastly, with prevention, we need to be accountable. When we mess up, we just need to say, I'm sorry, commit to doing better the next time, and do it with integrity, with honesty, with a pledge that you're sincere. And I know it's hard sometimes for us men when we're upset. That's just how we're built sometimes. But at the same time, we have to be sensitive to the persons who we are, hurting their feelings and whatever else, even abusively, physically on persons. Now, we're looking at some concerns for now and the future. This is not time to look at faults in our partners or even our children. This is a time to bring a lot of happiness after the lockdown is lifted, and as it allows families to come back together and bond. As men, this challenging time should not be a platform for us as men to perpetrate violence against our children or our females. This should be a platform to demonstrate positive behavior, because it will show that we as men could be able to deal with any issue that may arise for any unforeseen reason. And men can share domestic chores in the home to help balance the home even more. Cooking, cleaning up the dishes, sweeping the floors, mopping, helping the kids with their homework. These are small things that may seem insignificant at times, but these are important things that would help bring families together because of the stress, the hostility, and all of the anguish that some persons like us males are feeling because, for one, we don't have a job. And when we don't have a job, again, we start to deal with things out of the box, which is not conducive for our families. Commitments to survive and be successful for our families. We need to encourage each other during this time to be agents of change by supporting our partners and being able to take care and do the work inside, as I said before. So we need to enjoy the time that we have with our families, have a few laughs, sit down and watch a few comedies, even some cartoons might have relieved some stress. I know every night I get riled from my wife sometimes, but I like, before I go to bed, I like to take on a cartoon or two. It helps relieve stress, but whatever makes you happy in a positive light, we need to engage in those things. Now, 6 tips that are concrete things all men can do to show solidarity and supporting during this coronavirus. 1, commit and admit to yourself and your loved ones that this is a stressful situation. That means we have to come out of that box. Ask others what they would need and tell them what we need as well, so we could support each other. 2, violence against women or anyone for that matter increases people who are isolated. We need to support in women as related by highlighting and backing in their work, share the posts on social media and give a gift of trying to say that, hey, we as men support non-violence, especially violence against women, children, or even men ourselves. Because for whatever reason, we sometimes engage in violence against each other, which is not a good thing. 3, many times, women are the ones who take most social and environmental responsibility, emotional responsibility, sorry. This is the time for each of us as men to step up and be one of them who keeps in touch with the older members of the family and relatives and friends, check in with them regularly, talk to a friend and just say, hey, I'm reaching out just to find out how you're doing. Can I do something to assist you during this pandemic? Especially older relatives who are on medication, we could be able to probably help them by picking up the medications. And are you worried that you are someone who's close to you will get sick? You are not alone in this feeling this way. Many men have learned to push anxiety and fear. Ask a friend about how they feel, listen, and share your feelings as well. The same goes for concerns about your financial situation. I know some persons and some men, we don't like to talk about what we make, how we make, and whatever the situation is, but sometimes it's good to speak to someone, including a friend or a significant other, in regards to how you're going to deal with the financial crisis that you both may be feeling. So ask for help if you need it. Don't do the crisis alone. It is not something that you would need to engage in. 5, it often falls on mothers in most cases to take on responsibility of the emotional support of our children and for listening to their worries and concerns. I sometimes, myself, my son would come to me and he would ask something and I say, not now, I can't do it. But again, we have to take on some of these responsibilities, because if you're a father, you can make an important difference by listening to your children's feelings in regard to the coronavirus and its consequences. And 6, you can look at what resources you do have to contribute with, and unfortunately, the ongoing crisis reinforces already existing inequalities that we all may be going through for any unforeseen reason. But do you have the possibility to assist others? And if you do, assist them, because you never know how far your little assistance can help a long way. Celebrating of miracles. As the picture depicts men just engaging, and this is when men let their feelings out and just do what men do. But I have here where we have the man in this cartoon character. As I said, I like cartoon, the wife, the donkey, and the critics. In the first one, we have where it says, clueless couple don't even know how to ride a donkey, and they're making a mockery of them. And then you have in slide 2, where the couple, they're now criticizing them again. Oh, look at them, they're on the top of the donkey, they don't have a heart, they're criminal, they don't have no mercy on the animal. Again, this is the things that society places on us, but we have to move forward. Look at 3, it says, oh, look at the stupid man. He should ride, he is the boss. Again, it is not about who is in charge, it's about being fair because of what life deals us. At the end of the day, we have to take care of our families, and in this, he's doing just that. He's taking care of his wife by allowing her to be able to ride on the donkey. And in the 4th one, where it says, what a selfish man. He should be kind to his wife. Again, it's like, no matter what he does or they do, you see society backlashing on it. And then 5, because they now taking the donkey on a ride by giving the donkey a break, society again Stupid couple, look at them carrying the donkey, ha ha ha. But let us not forget the moral of the story. No matter what you do, you can never please everybody. Whatever you do, there will always be people who will criticize you. So just do what you believe is right and don't be distracted by criticisms. I know sometimes it is hard because of what life deals us. We take it on very hard, but we have to remember that we can never, in any unforeseen reason, please everybody. We just need to stay focused and ensure that our family is always taken care of. In the Department of Gender and Family Affairs from the male desk, we have partnered with many organizations because, again, as our director told me when I first came on, you cannot reinvent the wheel. There are many programs that are out there that are geared towards men in the country. And we don't need to invent them. We need to partner with these organizations. And we've done just that with Dr. Eric Fox and Teen Challenge Bahamas, who's doing an awesome work. Then you have International Men's Day Bahamas, who's again engaging men in positive things as it relates to bringing them in spaces and talk about men's health, finances, and domestic violence and gender-based violence. You have Brother Dave Williams. He's a director inside the Prison Fellowship Bahamas who engages in going into prisons where persons who we sometimes want to throw the key away and say they're too bad, they need to just go. He goes into the prisons and ministers to them to let them know that they are not lost and people have not forgotten them. So he's doing a great work along with Prison Fellowship Bahamas. Then we have the LW Young Junior High School Empowerment Club for Boys. These young men, when school starts, every week, they come together with their teachers and engage in positive thinking and positive programs by speakers coming and speaking to them and engaging with them to show them that life is not full of disappointment, or that they as young men could be positive role models in life once they engage in something positive. Mr. Toriano Johnson, our big brother outreach, our Bahamian champion, and as we see, he is doing great things. Just today, I engaged in one of his webinars that him and his wife is putting on to help engage and encourage young persons across the country during this COVID pandemic. They are helping persons of how to deal with their stresses and their issues during the pandemic, especially the young persons, because we sometimes forget that we as adults are not the only persons who are affected by this pandemic. We have our children who are cooped up, and they themselves want to be able to probably see friends and family. But as parents, we are taking the road of, oh no, you don't need this, you don't need to go outside, you need to stay inside, stay safe. But we have to remember that they are too subjected to the harsh punishments of the COVID-19 pandemic. Then we have Nathaniel McKinney and Dream Chasers. He's doing a great work inside the inner city. This is one of our former Olympians who again go down in the grassroots and do some of the jobs that we ourselves don't want to find ourselves doing. So I want to send kudos out to all these individuals. And there are many more, as we have Tanya Scrooge Brown and the Hay Street Association. They, again, in the inner city doing work to help empower not only young men, but also young girls to help show them that there are positive things, regardless of where you might have come from. At the end of the day, you can make a difference in your society by doing the small things. The Citizens Justice and the Citizen Security and Justice Program. This organization in the Bahamas under the Ministry of National Security is engaging in training. And I have done a few trainings with them. As you see depicted in the picture, you have many persons from law enforcement who are engaged in the trainings to help go and train on many aspects of family planning, gender-based violence, domestic violence, parenting, and they go into a depth of other stuff that would be able to engage these law enforcement officers, civic organizations, to train persons in society to be able to know what to look for in the event of gender-based violence, know how to keep yourself safe in the event of perpetrators engaging in whatever the situation might be. We have the Over the Hill initiative with the Office of the Prime Minister who engage in with children. So we want to be able to show that there are many things that are going on. But I just want to highlight these NGOs. Stewart's Cove, we got Caraman, which is a Caribbean body that helps facilitate males in the country and partner with women organizations. Then we have Deeds Driven Dads, which is a program that helps to inspire men to be able to do the things that men as fathers should be able to do. So I just want to leave you with a nugget here. 1 Corinthians 16, verse 13 and 14 states, my brothers, be on guard, stand firm in your faith, be courageous, be strong, and do every and anything with love. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening, and may God continue to bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
Very good, Henry. I'm ready now.
You ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Hopefully it doesn't blank out this time.
Just let me do it. Let me do it. Okay, there you go. You want to start here?
Right. I can start right there.
Okay, go ahead.
Again, we're talking about family abuse in the pandemic. Let's go. You can carry on. The Ministry of Social Service and Urban Development, Department of Gender and Family Affairs is on an ambitious mission and awareness campaign to end all forms of gender-based violence by the year 2030 and encourages early intervention and prevention as the foundational approach by law enforcement officers, healthcare providers, social services, and other government and non-government organizations, faith-based organizations, and the wider public. The Department of Gender and Family Affairs encourages gender equality and human rights mainstreaming into all government policies, programs, and projects. And last year, that's in 2019, in November, the Minister of Social Services, Minister Frankie Campbell, he launched End It Now to Domestic Violence. This was in Rawson Square. Now, next time we need more men participating in this. If you notice, a lot of women participated last year. So we're calling for the men to come forward this year, November, if we are allowed to go out in Rawson Square again. Okay. Next slide. Our guiding principles and core values is number 1, prevention. Number 2, protection. And number 3, accountability. Let's go. Again, we're talking about the family, and you heard about it earlier, but the family life exists within a myriad of culture, religious, racial, and ethnic differences, which cut across the geographical boundaries and shape the family structure. It is the first environment in which gender roles is transmitted. Patterns of violence and abuse is formulated and culturally accepted, which spills over into society as a problem-solving model. And we see that happening not only in the family, but happening among friends, among the gangs in the country. You see them attacking each other for little minor, little frivolous, little things. Family abuse occurs when a family member, intimate or former intimate partner, attempts to physically or psychologically dominate another person. It is intended to control, overpower, or dominate the victim, and it includes any kind of abusive behavior that occurs in the home. Finger pointing, blaming, choking, slapping, punching, kicking, name calling, threats of harm, stabbing, and shooting. And this is the definition, this is legal definitions from the Domestic Violence Protection Order Act. It includes physical, sexual, emotional, or psychological or financial abuse by a person against a spouse, partner, child, and any other person who is a member of the household or dependent. Now, you know, originally, there was the Sexual Offenses and Domestic Violence Act. We now have it separated, where you have the Sexual Offenses Act, which is Chapter 99, And now you have a Domestic Violence Protection Order Act, which relates to the definition. Before, we didn't have a domestic violence definition. We now have one. And in this act also assists us in guiding us. It guides the social worker. It also guides the police officer as exactly what they are supposed to do. It relates to stalking, okay, financial abuse, physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. And so that is a great step. That is a great, great step in the country. In humanitarian crisis, abuse in the family tends to increase. Intimate partner violence is the most common form of violence according to research. The elderly, disabled, children, women who are displaced, migrants living in conflicted and affected areas are particularly vulnerable. The abuse can result in injuries and serious physical, mental, sexual, and reproductive health problems, including sexually transmitted disease, HIV, unplanned pregnancy, etc. This is the abuse statistic that I got from the Crisis Center. And the Crisis Center reported that 126 gender-based violence matters occurred between March and May of 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. 4 times the amount seen compared to the same period in 2019. 124 females and 2 males. And we know that globally, 1 in 3 women worldwide have experienced physical or sexual violence in their lifetime. How does COVID-19, or how can COVID-19 exacerbate risk of abuse in the family? Number 1, stress, the disruption of social and protective networks, and decreased access to services, job loss, and the reduction of basic needs all can exacerbate the risk of abuse in the family. Women and children are more vulnerable and may be isolated and have less contact with family and friends who may provide support and protect them from violence. And going to number 3, women bear the brunt of increased care work during this pandemic. School closure further exacerbate the burden and place more stress on the woman. Care for the elderly and persons with disability, and also they have sexual reproductive health challenges. Other services such as hotlines, health clinics, crisis center, shelters, legal aid, and protection services may also be scaled back, further reducing access to few sources of help that women in abusive relationship might have. And we see that happening right now in the Bahamas. Some medical facilities are scaled down. So pregnant women cannot get the help that they need. So all of this is an issue. United Nations Women reported the violence and abuse in the family is a shadow pandemic. The director said, confinement is the perfect storm for controlling violent behavior the director of UN Women, she said that confinement is the perfect storm for controlling violent behavior. And in the previous 12 months before COVID-19, 243 million women and girls between the ages of 15 to 49 across the world were subjected to sexual and physical abuse by an intimate partner. The global cost of the violence against women and girls was estimated at $1.5 trillion US. And we know that domestic violence is an extreme cost. It's a cost to family members, and it's also a cost to the wider public. So the wider public, even if the violence is not happening to you, we are directly and indirectly affected. Because when a man kills his wife and the children are left, we have to pay our taxes. our taxes assist in taking care of these children. So we are indirectly affected because now social services now have to help with these children. It's a cost to the medical facilities. It's a cost to the prison because now the perpetrator who went to prison, we have to take care of them. So it's a major cost. And that's why it's so important for us to work together to stem the flow of violence in our communities. Let's just take a look at the biblical history of abuse of a woman in 2 Samuel 13. This was when a man raped his sister. Her name was Tamar. Tamar is the name, Pastor. I may be pronouncing it wrong. And
Good to go.
pardon me? A
Yeah.
man rapes his sister Tamar. And this is 2 Samuel 13, verse 1, where a man said that he was in love with his own sister, okay? And he really wanted to have a sexual relationship with her. And so he spoke to one of his cousins about it, okay? And his cousin, Jonadab, he advised him to act as though he was sick and then invite her to come to his house, okay? Come to his house and so that she can take care of him. And so he did that. He told his father that he was not feeling well and he needed his sister to come to his house to cook for him. And so she went over there real happy to do this for him. And once she got there and she prepared the meal and was about to hand it to him, he held her down and he raped her against her will, okay? And the sad part about it, he not only raped her, but after he raped her, he became so angry with her. And all of a sudden he said he had this serious hate for her. And so he decided to throw her out of his house, okay? And he had a servant. He was telling her to leave the house. After having a sexual relationship with her, he told her to leave the house. And she didn't want to leave because she was embarrassed, okay? But after doing all of this to her, he still mistreated her and discriminated against her. And so in the world today, sometimes we see the same things happening to women who think that they can use their bodies to trap a man. But in some cases, once you give yourself to that man, he really don't want you anymore. He just wanted to have a good time, okay? In this case, this was a case of incest, okay? And which is happening today as well. In some homes, you have brother, sister, mother, brother and sister, aunt and uncle, so forth, family members having sexual relationship with one another. But I just want to let you know that that's a serious offense. It carries a heavy, heavy fine, okay? But in the end, a man suffered for it because his brother, who was very angry with him for it, his brother, he had a few young men went and set him up to be killed. And so he died because of what he did to his sister. Okay, so there are consequences. And there's another story in the Bible where Jesus brings back a woman to her status in society. In biblical times, men had power and privilege in family and societies, and it is still the reality today in many situations. Jesus addressed the marginalization and abuse of women by men when he protected the woman from being stoned to death by the man who accused her of adultery. He rebuked the man and advised the woman to go and repent of her sin. Next slide. I don't know if you remember this story. This took place in John chapter 8, verse 1 to 11, where Jesus, he just came to the temple courts where he was about to teach the people when the teachers of the law and Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the entire group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery." Next slide. And they made reference to Moses, who commanded us to stone such women. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. And when he wrote on the ground, when they saw what he wrote, all of them turned away. I don't know exactly what, maybe Pastor can advise us as to what Jesus wrote on the ground, but all of the men, they left. Now, they were discriminating against this woman. Although she might have committed a sin, they were still discriminating against her, because where was the man that she committed this adultery with? Why didn't they bring the man? So you see, from time immemorial, from even in the Bible days, women were always being discriminated against and mistreated and stoned to death for committing sins. And so Jesus said that is a no-no. But we also want to talk too about forgiveness. After you abuse, forgiveness. And Marie Fortune said, "Forgiveness is a pastoral resource available to those who have been victimized by others' action. It is a means of restoration to wholeness. It should be viewed from the experience of the victim and understood as only one aspect of the healing process." And she's saying that the guidance given to these victims from pastors and church people is for victims to forgive and forget, okay? But let's go to the next slide. For a victim of violence and abuse to be freed to forgive the abuser, some prior steps must be taken. Forgiveness is the last step in the process of healing from the brokenness of violence and abuse. Jesus described the process of forgiveness in Luke 17, 3-4. He said, "Take heed to yourselves. If thy brother trespass against thee, rebuke him. And if he repents, forgive him. And if he trespass again on you 7 times in the day, and 7 times in the day turn again to thee, saying, I repent, thou shalt forgive him." But I hope you all are noticing that there are some steps you must take before you can be forgiven, okay? Firstly, you must repent, okay? And you also has to be rebuked. And I know a lot of times perpetrators may come to you as pastors and as church or lay persons, okay? And, you know, sometimes we just give them a pat on the back. We don't give them a stark reality that what they are doing is extremely wrong, okay? So Jesus is saying you must rebuke them and they must repent. The prerequisite to forgiveness is justice. Prior to justice, forgiveness is an empty exercise. The offender often views forgiveness as an immediate way to be relieved of guilt for wrongful doing. The offender may approach the pastor seeking intervention. I said that already. So justice, forgiveness, and healing for the victim is not fully dependent on the offender. It is the responsibility of the wider community, including the church, the legal system, family, and friends. Okay, so please, y'all. We are about collaboration, okay? Violence is the result of several interacting risk factors which affects individual families, communities, and society. No issue relating to violence has a single cause or single solution. So to have an impact on the context and underlying risk factors that lead to violence, different partners across local areas should work together and adopt a whole system approach. And this is what we are here for, and we're asking the church to partner with the Department of Gender and Family Affairs in our quest to minimize gender-based violence in our communities. You can go ahead, multi-agency approach. I'm not gonna go through that. Next slide. Most communities will already have several small local organizations working to address the challenges affecting them. Partners should use their local intelligence and experience, which can make it easier to support communities which are not always receptive to statutory services such as education, police, or social services. So we want to co-produce and co-brand. Co-production and co-branding of all activities supports the idea of consensus and shared accountability. And yes, what we're looking for is love. And love is not abusive. Are you living in an abusive relationship? Tell a friend, family member, co-worker, teacher, pastor, crisis center, social worker, or police officer. Violence is never the answer. Thank you very much. So we'll now have Director Higgs.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Sands. I want to say as
Oh,
we,
you said I couldn't do you have a sound on
as
this?
I,
Okay.
sorry, as I prepare to upload my video, Pastor Scavella, God bless you, sir, for this opportunity. I want to say to you that it was about 2 years ago, I just been appointed as the director of, Mr. Johnson, you go ahead and put it up for me, please, because I'm having difficulties. I just been appointed.
It's up already.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. And this is from you, but I can operate it.
No, ma'am.
Oh, so you will operate it for me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right then. I want to say that it was about 2 years ago, I came to make a presentation to Centerville Seventh-day Adventist Church. As a matter of fact, I came to participate in a presentation done by former Superintendent of Police, Elaine Sands. And sir, I am so thankful to the Seventh-day Adventist Church because I stand to be corrected, but I want to say to my knowledge in the role that I've played as director of the Department of Gender and Family Affairs for the past 2 years, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, to my knowledge, is the pioneering leader in the Bahamas with regards to a church, a religion that openly supports, guides, and give the blessings with regards to ending violence. And so, again, saying no, like you said, it started in your case with the women and the petition. And I know that it's a Adventist initiative all over the world because I heard the history when I came there. So I really want to say thank you, sir, because in the past 2 years, I too have come to learn quite a bit about the millions and millions of women around the world and the hundreds and thousands here in the Bahamas who suffer violence in silence. And so thank you very much for this opportunity. And I want to say it was at that very presentation that I approached Ms. Sands immediately because she just retired from the police force, but I knew that we needed her. And sure enough, I went to the authorities asking, petitioning, and she was brought in as the gender expert in the Department of Gender and Family Affairs. And she has been cited by cabinet, named by cabinet as the expert for gender in the country, along with the alternate, Simone Bridgewater, and they work in conjunction with Dr. Sandra Dean Patterson, who served as the immediate past gender expert. So I just wanted to say that. And then also I see we have Marisa Mason-Smith, and I'm thinking she's a member of that congregation or her family. And I know too, sir, that she leads the largest NGO initiative for ending gender-based violence through her Zonta Club. And so I really want to say thank God for the Adventist contribution toward this national need for awareness. I am going to go very, very quickly because I'm conscious now that it's 8:35. I'm going to go very quickly. I'm so happy that Mr. Johnson went first. They will say, okay, ladies, you go first. But Mr. Johnson, I'm really thankful as the male, you did a powerful presentation. And so thank you for that. And then Ms. Sands, you sealed it by giving facts, statistics, etc. I'm going to go very quickly. And so Mr. Johnson, you will just keep going until I tell you to stop once I say go. And the reason is because I'm going to be presenting on the impact, COVID-19 impact on families, and I'm going to give a spices solution, I am the Director, Department of Gender and Family Affairs, 2 years in the post, and the post deals with national relations in the Bahamas. Additionally, though, we deal with the world. And so that's very, very important with regards to international reports. And on September the 1st, Hurricane Dorian hit Abaco. And you will see now in these photos, devastations that were pounded upon persons in that community. And they lost personal belongings. They lost hundreds of loved ones. They lost dignity. They lost relationships. They lost, again, businesses. And we were just struggling with trying to help those people from Hurricane Dorian. As a matter of fact, the shelter just closed, if I'm not mistaken, and they had to close because of even the circumstances that were met. And then we went straight into COVID-19. And I remember vividly, almost 200 women were planning to go to the United Nations to join this huge United Nations convention. And then March 8th, they had to cancel it. And I remember traveling March 10th, and COVID was here. So what I'm about to present is specific to the Bahamas, but COVID-19 is happening all over the world. COVID-19 is happening to all over the world, and even countries that showed that they were doing very well, some of them now have to close down. And I want to say that I, Jacinta, use COVID almost like a plague, that analogy of the plague, because I said that's the only thing I know where a pharaoh would say, open up my borders, or let's do this, or I will do this. And then the plague would come upon that land, and then you have to close back down. And so unfortunately, we are seeing that's the signs of those. Just keep going, please, Mr. Johnson. And so therefore, I traveled on March 10th. The planes shut down, the ships shut down. And you see this plane coming in. This is not me on that plane, but I came in on a plane just like that because I went to my daughter on March 10th to celebrate with my grandchild, my brand new baby grandboy. And while I had every intention to read him stories and to whisper in his ears and to pray and to sing and to teach him songs, because you can't always rely on these young people for this intergenerational cultural transmission, I spent 80 days and 80 nights, Dr. Scavella and audience, sitting in that house, just watching CNN and just pining. And every now and again, I would celebrate and hold the baby and help. But I really was affected by what was happening. And I was there alone. And not only me, doctors around the world they didn't abdicate, but they had to abandon for a little while, if only for 2 minutes, gather together, go outside and pray. So doctors all over the world were turning to God for guidance as they dealt with the COVID pandemic. So the doctors, nurses were on the front line dealing with these patients. And it was almost like you were watching a movie. And I had watched, I'm sure, about 3 kinds of movies dealing with these contagions. And I really sat in the home in the United States thinking about that. And so we want to give God thanks for the doctors and nurses who swore who took an oath to help people, that they have to go on the front line, even though they look at their family every day. Some of them didn't even go home. They actually stayed in hotels or secure places so as not to even contaminate their families. So the level of fear was really high. And we are thankful that even as we had to make makeshift spaces outside, we have to and had to deal with it and continue to. And so sometimes, every time someone hears a national address, we stick to the television and we listen for the guidance from, they say, the competent authorities. And there is still fear. There is still fear. I just want to admonish the church through its members to always let them know to be grateful no matter what, to be grateful no matter what. Because when you see the cabinet members of a country have to stand still, wear masks, and sometimes execute a plan, and then the plan don't work. And then you have the top, they said, entity of the government who are affected are our persons, police officers, law enforcement officers, who are on the front line. When you see us, I have never seen this in our country. I only saw this when I traveled to Africa and certain parts of the world where you have police officers, have barricades and everyday checkpoints. And so this is what we are seeing in our country, but these are the times that demand that. And so we give God thanks again for those who are on the front line.
Right on.
You see police officers now even doing social service work, meaning they have, everybody have to now join together. You've seen roles that are being merged. So now you have police officers out there giving protective equipment, giving masks, giving water. And, you know, and I heard the people through in Elaine, and the reason why I want to talk about this, Pastor, is because, you know, you invited us and you said, what is the role of church in ending the violence? Because now it's a new form of violence. The church must now begin to become a partner with us and the Department of Social Services and the Ministry of Education. So the children are about to get ready to go to school, and some parents are fearful. All right, there are measures that now have to be done, not only in school, but also at the airports, you know, places where you go, they're doing the temperature check. And so now here are the latest statistics with regards to the Bahamas. You see the death number climbing. You see the amount of active cases that have been climbing over the months. And again, this is happening in 90% of the countries around the world. And so the church, even though I told someone the darkest day came when the church was bolted down, the temples were bolted, the synagogues were bolted shut, and the mosques. So when you saw that, means sacred spaces of spiritual replenishment was locked down and the curfew time, then you know that we were seeing the darkest experiences of our lives in terms of this historical period. And again, the church, though, must be stronger, even though they are being made to streamline. And so the Bahamas Council, Christian Council and its representatives, still petitioning in terms of more access to congregations. But I heard someone beautifully say, the church now really have to extend itself to go outward, and they have to use the telephone and the technology to help their congregants and even persons who live around their area to heal, because you cannot go on the beach. We are locked up in our homes. This is the impact now that's happening. Can't go on the beach. You're locked up in your home, peeping through the window. People are fearful. People are dying. And so in memory of John Lee Ferguson, I share this, you know, someone as prominent, a giant of a man who taught thousands and thousands of Bahamians, yet he's have to have a private funeral like everybody else. So COVID, next, is no respecter of person. It's no respecter of family. And so we grieve with that family, and we grieve with all the families to this point who have lost loved ones. And so therefore, 6 feet, next. Masks, next. Staying at home, children being at home, husband being at home, locked down in the home, next. Houses gonna soon start going up for sale. You're gonna see more and more of that because, you know, we have the case that we use as an example, a couple doing relatively well, both working at Atlantis, now both unemployed. You have hundreds, 100,000 need help with food. In that, Mr. Johnson talked about the men who used to provide for their family. Now they are legitimately unable to do so, and yet having to go on unemployment lines, etc. You have the homeless still out there, persons. You have domestic violence. occurring. Incest, Ms. Sands talked about. You had fighting and rowing. We did a survey, and the level of family violence and rowing one another did increase. You have child incest and abuse. You have the disabled persons who need to be taken care of, persons with disability. An NGO leader called me and he said, Dr. Higgs, he's an essential worker because they're NGOs. And I thank God that the Prime Minister saw fit to give them that essential status and the letters. Literally, he has to go to homes and bathe persons with disability. And so it's very, very important that human rights are taken into consideration. And so, Dr. Scavella, with the church, you are the FBOs, the faith-based organizations, and I know you are doing your work, but we are recognizing that we're going to need to, because these are unprecedented disaster and humanitarian crisis, you're going to need to work with the CSOs, the civil society groups, the NGOs. You're going to need to work for the NPOs. We all have to, and the churches all have to work together with the government to improve the lot of the life of persons. So I want to quickly talk about spices as a solution. And spices deal with every aspect of man. It's an acronym, but we know spices are condiments. These are seasonings and herbs and roots and barks, etc. Go ahead. And so spices help us, and they also help the community development. So right now, Dr. Scavella, we really need the church. And I saw the church leaders last week, all of them sent out messages to their congregants. And it was very, very powerful listening to the voice, to another voice, because the Prime Minister is not the only competent authority. He's regarding to specific COVID matters. But when it comes to the spiritual matters, we look to the church leaders from the various denominations. And so we want to move from trauma, that's the violence, to triumph. We want to move from violence to victory. We want to move from despair. Some people are despair, and we want to return them to their divinity. Once they breathe in that breath, that's the breath of God flowing through them. We want to move them from fear to faith. We want to move them from the lockdown mentality to looking up mentality. Use that time to look up and praise God. And so this is very, very important. So the social needs then are people living alone, the shelter, food, salary, wages, if they lost wages. These are some of the social concerns that we talk about, and that's very, very important. Then you have, so this is the S in terms of the spices, the S. Then you have the P, and I'm going quickly because this PowerPoint will be made available. The P stands for 3 Ps, 3 aspects: the physiological, the psychological, and the political unity. So physiologically, the bodies are being damaged and people are now being sick. Psychologically, people can't sleep. They're restless, they're anxious, they're depressed. They're trauma, some of them are recalling trauma. They are perpetrators in the midst. Political unity, you have to have all major political parties coming together, and all of them, because again, the country is in this together. You have the Bahamas Psychological Association, and so I have this chart here, and it's online as well. I got this from online, but I am so thankful to Dr. Valerie. Well, Valerie knows, she presented to the ministry, Professor Vicente Roberts, Dr. Wendy Fernanda, and there's another doctor who did a powerful, Deetra. I think her name is Deetra, but they did a powerful job, sir, and they are available. So even if the church realized that, okay, well, we need to now get them to come in to talk to our members just to help them through some things, or if some cases are presented to you, you need to have these people at a fingertip so that in terms of communication, so that they can help. Then you have I is intellectual. And what happened during COVID is we had to address the impact of the families due to school closure. So just so we know, I don't know if anyone realized this, but literally you have 100, you could salvage exactly 100 days of teaching. Only 100, because once you take out all of the school breaks, harvest, midterm, Christmas, exams, review, sports day, it really is 100 full days. And you may be able to salvage 115, 120. So when school closed in March, we missed a lot of days, almost half. And then you have various platforms now that students and persons are using, so we're very thankful. So the church, and I'm so happy, Dr. Scavella, Pastor, you were able to open up your Zoom and bring us in and do this, and so that's powerful as the way the church would need to move to help. Culturally, so in terms of the community needs, addressing the needs of not being able to host or attend sacred rites. And so, I'm a Roman Catholic, and burial is a rite. That's a R-I-T-E for us. Marriage, those are sacred ceremonies, and baptism, etc., weddings. And so what is happening now is you're unable to do it as we ordinarily did. And so therefore, it's going to grieve some people. Some people are going to hold these things. And because, I want to use a word, and it's not the best word, but some of us are thin-skinned. That's just a way to describe, meaning we hold things dear, and or like they say, petty, but it isn't petty. It's important to them. It's important. And so you had a wedding date planned, now you have to put it off. Or Mr. Ferguson buried today. Mr. Ferguson, I'm sure, would have pulled 700 people in that church. But yet they're having a private burial tomorrow. So I'm saying that to say we're going to have to use ways to bring the RIGHT to help people understand the RITE in this time, because you cannot do it. We cannot. And I don't support that we open up, because I had burials in my family recently, and sure enough, at that time, it was 30 of us in that church. And once that 30 hit, that was it. Whether son, mother, wife, whoever hit that 30, that's it, because the times are dictating our behavior. So there is something called intergenerational transmission of the cultural heritage. And I think we really did a poor job on it. And I know I'm an educator, 35-year veteran educator, right? And I too, even with the Afrocentric teaching leaning in terms of what I do, we don't pass on our grandparents' thing. And so therefore, I am sure that drinking half a cup of Cersei every morning, taking the cod liver oil, doing the cleaning for the children with the worms. And so again, no disrespect, this is a beautiful thing I'm about to say. Thank God for the Seventh-day Adventists. I had Seventh-day Adventist families living right across from me. And I remember from that time, not eating the meat and the pork and the different things. And right now, I have done the scientific search with regards to how that is lending to our demise, to our death, to our illness, to the mucus. Because when they give those animals antibiotics, the animals build up pus, white blood cells, to help break up some of the antibiotics and the injury. So then that comes in us when we eat it. And so hence, if we are filled with mucus, that's where this coronavirus is attacking. It's building up mucus in the lungs as it works. And so again, we really need to return to some of the cultural values of our forefathers with regards to stories, old story time, games, photo albums. This is the time when children could have been scanning photo albums, taking pictures, doing family trees. So they could have used this time to heal. Then that's the C is for cultural. Then the E is for economic and entrepreneurial. And so we have to address the financial impact upon our families, because people have been laid off, there are terminations, closure of businesses and schools. People need to pay rent, mortgage. They need to avoid the foreclosure. They need to open up small business and go for the people who jump quickly and shifted and start doing masks and start doing the bags, the cloth bags for the food store, But we have to repurpose and we have to retool and rekindle our dreams. And the church is going to be critical, because you have by far the consistent adult population audience as a conglomerate, as a church. And then the S, the final S, is spiritual. And again, this is where you come in. And people are asking, why are these bad things happening in the world? Is this the work of the devil? Where is the faith? I heard a pastor this morning say that the people are going in a state of depression because the churches are closed. That's a serious indictment on many people, but I will stop right there. Meaning, please, Pastor Scavella, through the Barbers Christian Council and your thing, can you, help the churches to use forums such as these to have their meetings? And I know they have the church services, but more training, retooling, reskilling, rethinking needs to happen, because COVID came, it's here for a long while. and it's going to do so. It's going to do what it came to do. It's going to achieve its purpose. All right, so that we will have to shift, because then we will break or bend or die. And so the S was for the spiritual. And so then finally now we need to look out for one another. And so that's again, that's you in the church. Next slide, Mr. Johnson. To look out for one another, we have to find ways to create a vision board. You know, let people use this time while they're home to go into magazines or go online and cut out pictures for them so they can put a new vision back up there to remind themselves what their pre-COVID vision was as a family. You need to enroll in free online courses, attend virtual meetings such as these, play family board games, watch and binge on favorite movies, you know, just to help you sleep and get up, you know, read classics and tell old stories, do talent shows in your family, and have the person who like to tell jokes in the family tell jokes, start or improve the backyard gardening, because we're gonna have to start feeding ourselves right from out our backyard, because even though we might be eating fresh fruits, but many of them are genetically modified, and we have to maybe cook outside in the backyard. All right, and so now I want to quickly go to social assistance. There are programs, hotlines, organizations, and tips. Next, we want to help the disabled. Next slide. During this global pandemic. Next, we want to find benefits, and so this is what we're asking you to do. Because I saw a question already with regards to asking us, say, social services taking too long. So, sir, you through your social media bonding and your cooperation and your connectivity, meaning the church, when I say, you need to approach the Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development as an entity, because there are many forms of assistance that are provided to the vulnerable, including the care for the poor, widows, orphans, homeless, persons with disability, unemployed families, the vulnerable, survivors of abuse, teenagers, parents seeking. So there are assistance, all right? And so then we have a national hotline. Again, it's right here. And maybe Ms. Sands and Ms. Simon of them could type it into the chat group as well. But there are persons right now who are sitting down, waiting on phone calls to assist people. And so therefore, once you know the number, if someone called, let's say 3 or 4 congregants call you, you will say, okay, call this number and let me know how it went. You know, always asking for the follow-up. But again, if you approach them with a letter, formalized letter from the Bahamas Christian Council, or from the church head, because right now in the Department of Social Service, I am almost certain people don't know what I'm about to share. You only hear about social services, but let me tell you, they have a children and family services section. And that section has about 7 units: child care facilities, placement unit, child protection, national abuse, domestic violence counseling, and trafficking in persons. And each one of these can come and even do a presentation to your church, because trafficking in persons is a powerful group. I just learned about it more when I took on the position, because we are now tier 1 level in the United States with regards to preventing abuse for vulnerable people. But we need to know what's happening in our waters. All right, family services, and they also have school welfare. Then you have other units called disaster management unit. You have a whole family island unit. You have a deportees unit that help if they capture a boat, a vessel with illegal immigrants or from persons from international countries who are not straight. Then you have persons from social services who have to accompany them, especially in the case when they were women or when they are minors. And then there's a health service protection division at the Princess Margaret Hospital. There's one at Sandilands Rehabilitation Center. There's a research and planning division. There's a senior citizens division. Then you have urban renewal, these are all different entities with specific mandates to help and a very small budgets to help in terms of projects. And then you have the Department of Rehabilitative Services, Community Support, Disability, and then us. That's the Department of Gender and Family Affairs. And the Department of Gender and Family Affairs, again, we have a national mandate and then we have an international mandate. And so we can assist and partner. So
Dr.
therefore,
Dr. Higgs, please include the National Commission for Persons with Disability.
beautiful. Sorry about that.
Please.
Sorry about that. So they should have been there as well. Disability. It's right there. I'm sorry. I was just going over, but see, it's right there above our name. I'm sorry. Disability Affairs Unit and the National Commission. Thank you very much, Ms. Kelly. And that's a critical one because even so, in terms of the churches, there is an international mandate for us to be inclusive, meaning that we must include every time we have a program or plan, you must. So for example, and so forgive us, I'm just now saying it, but let me give you an example of how we can help. You see this here? This is on Facebook, right? So there should have been an interpreter, a sign doing the sign language. And so they ask us to do that. And we are getting there. And by the way, the person who just spoke is Maria Kelly. She and I work directly together. And she is the immediate past director of that area. And again, she and I traveled to an international conference with regards to ways in which we must include persons with disability. So now the Department of Social Services, you have the Ministry of Social Services, then you have the Department of Social Services. And the Department of Social Services, which is located on Blue Hill Road, they have, and they were given an increased subvention, millions of dollars, millions. As a matter of fact, every ministry was asked to decrease their budget except for Social Services, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, and Ministry of Agriculture. There may be one or two more, but I remember those four. And so I'm saying that because they do help with rental assistance. They have been helping with rental assistance long time, but now the increase of requests has magnified. Food assistance, they have been doing it, but now some of my members are working in this digital unit now that is dealing with processing thousands and thousands of applications. And so I know someone asked, it's taken too long. We already applied from March and we ain't hear nothing from them yet. I understand that, but there are structural mandates that the government must now put in place with regards to, you just can't go in and someone write up a form and put it in a file. It is now being digitally tracked, and that is for accounting purposes, because now because sometimes if you have 10 stalls and you have things unattended, people could go to the stall and do whatever they want, meaning the more things you have, sometimes the more chaotic it could become or the longer it takes. But right now we are using a system with regards to tracking it. There is uniform assistance. There's a whole budget just dealing with uniform. And so, Pastor, I am telling you, again, if you get someone, make sure you write your letter, you contact the relevant officials at the Department of Social Services and all of the people in your church. And Pastor, if it comes through you, we are thankful because we know there's a level of credibility, validity, reliability, integrity, and authenticity. What do I mean? The level of honesty is going to be heightened with you as they come through the church. But even the church can begin to assist and say, okay, let me get the list. Okay, did you get your uniform? Okay, how many children? Okay, because there is a budget for uniform assistance. Medical assistance, mainly for the elderly traveling from the family island. And you have basic needs. They give clothing and footwear, basic household items, beds, appliances such as stoves and refrigerators. Utilities, they pay for essential, they give contributions for families who really can't afford it, for essentially electricity bills. Now, and not for a long period of time. See, that's another thing again, because it has to go around to help. But when they really get in dire straits, and that's why together we're going to have to come up with economic recovery strategies, because people can really need to start getting back quickly on their own, even though the hotels are closed and people aren't traveling. All right. They also help with medical supply, eyeglasses, fire relief, small home repairs. Urban Renewal does this as well, the small home roof repairs. So if you know someone house leaking, Director Russell, Kellen Russell, is at Urban Development with this regard. They even help people with burial assistance. All right, persons who are really in need. And so, sir, thank you so very much. Thank all of you for listening and for attending. I just wanted to give a little guidance as to what we are experiencing. Yes, we are experiencing pain and fear and bitterness and grief and anger. And I'm saying if the church can begin to now more and more, even though the people are not attending church in physical form, if they can guide them towards being grateful. You know, when we were little, they say an ungrateful child. You know, parents, the old people always talked about that, you know, and I always say, I can deal with a rude child, a no-manners child, a child who is sexually active, a child who even fight the parents, even though that's one too that grieves the elders, right? You could work with that and show them the error of their ways. But an ungrateful spirit grieves the very heart of God. And that's why the one person who returned to say thank you is celebrated so 2,000 plus years later. And so Dr. Scavella, pastor, Seventh-day Adventist Church Centerville, God bless you, sir, for your compassion, for your empathy, for your leadership, for your wisdom to invite us tonight. And I pray to God that what we would have shared has been enlightening to the spirit of all those who are present. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Higgs, and thank you for your team being here this evening. We are certainly enlightened and encouraged as we seek to help people to understand what is available and how we can help them and collaborate with you, because we are part of a team effort in this country to grow people and to help them to be in a better place, not just in the sweet by and by, but right now as much as we can. And in as much as we've done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, we've done it unto Christ himself. And so we're just delighted. And you did address the note in the chat group in regards to the long process. But if there's anything that we as a church can do to help to validate and to encourage the process with anybody, we're here too as a church, because you know us, as you said, and we can interact with people in this regard. It is already past 9 o'clock, but maybe I'll just take one or two questions if there are any others as we conclude this evening. Again, we want to say thank you to Mr. Johnson, and I'm so glad that there's a man at that table. I saw that picture with all those ladies, and I mean, he must be in his glory, you know, having all those ladies around him, and that's a step in a positive direction. We thank God for the ladies and what they're doing, but we also thank God for the man there. You know, it brings balance in the whole situation. So, Mr. Johnson, you got a supporter here, and we want to encourage you in what you're doing to grow in that area. And then Mrs. Elaine Sands, of course, our very own Elaine, who's with us all the time and always willing to help. And so we're just delighted that when I asked her to do this, she says, Pastor, I'm bringing the whole team. And so we're happy to have the entire team with us this evening. So just before we close, if there's one person or two who have a question for the team this evening, and let me assure you that we will be collaborating and interacting with you more, Dr. Higgs and your team, as we grow closer together in this effort. Is there a question or two? One we'll be willing to pose to the panel. You know, one of the things that I am becoming more acutely aware of, there's something in the world of education called futurists. These are people who look at the future and see the trends, and based on the trends, they begin to plan. And COVID-19 has helped us to advance that whole concept a whole lot more, because last year this time I didn't think I'd be Zooming so much. You know, I didn't Zoom hardly at all. But here's the future for us that has come present. And so are there any trends that you see going ahead in social services in our country that we need to be aware of?
So from my perspective, what I see is more need that's going to arise. I pray to God that with the technology, so the unit that is responsible for processing the application forms, I pray for them always. There are 3 members of our team working along with those women. Now that's critical because these people are anxious now. And it is true. It is true. I'm very thankful that the Prime Minister, the most honorable Dr. Minnis, said that every minister is now going to come publicly and give an account. I think that's important because persons are anxious because yes, it is true that many of them would have applied since March, immediately following the experience. Now, thankfully, National Insurance already had this multi-pronged, comprehensive online system where everybody was already registered. So now, in addition to our regular social service clients, then we had now this deluge, this huge influx of persons. And so the trend I see is we're gonna have to digitize more and give more accounts. We're gonna have to train more and have an upgrade more. So those are trends. Just like what you said, now you're doing more Zooming. Our trend is we have to get more tech savvy. We have to be more accountable because notice what is happening with regards to those. We have never, I don't think in the whole history of our country, had as many press conferences. Again, accountability. And
Right.
even when you say something wrong or something that the people feel grieved by or concerned by, they will voice it because now you have a trend too of persons with the technology and social media being able to spew more or share more or express more. And so I think a greater level of accountability is a trend I'm seeing that's going to have to come from government employees. I'm seeing more distress. And so that's why I'm saying, Pastor, you see, right now, I don't know that the church, and I know people have access to telephones, your parishioners, but I am willing, my opinion, I'm willing to share that and say that you are not seeing the devastation, the financial devastation to families as yet, because churches are still on and off, open and closing, and only so many. So you're not really race entity to work with government and civil society and private sector, and even private sector too. The trend is you're going to see less giving for a period until people are able to level out with their confidence of what's happening. Because right now we are in the midst still of the unknown.
Yes, certainly. And that's important. Ecclesiastes chapter 9 or 11, I think it is 1 to 9, talks about um, sowing to 7 and to 8. And basically what it's saying is that we as individuals need to don't put all of our eggs into one basket. Develop multiple sources of income, and you talked about growing your own food and that kind of thing, so that if a disaster does come, 2 or 3 things might get knocked down, but you still have 2 or 3 things operating for you. And so this is something that we have to help people to begin to understand, so that it will lessen the burden on the government in a long-term basis. So these are some of the things that the church needs to also do. Looking into the future, sometimes we just depending on just one income, but that's never always the best, and so we have to develop that mindset of maximizing our gifts and our talents and abilities, so that when one thing gets knocked down, if my banana tree get knocked down, my apple tree might still be bearing. And so, yeah. All right, I don't see any questions.
Pastor Scavella, just one more thing, and this goes back to the economic, because the economic is going to be the base. So even though spices begins with the social, and then we The economic is going to be the implementation of these things. Dr. Pansy Hamilton Brown, also one of your members and my mentor. I love her. She told me go back to the garlic. I just got the garlic capsules and the grape juice. She guides me with that regard. I want to say to you that economically, if the church, and I know sometimes people say, what, I ain't getting the church money, because there is distrust for some denominations. Your church, in your wisdom, please encourage Bahamians to go back to ASU. So let me explain what I mean. John Lee Ferguson, former senator, the Honorable John Lee Ferguson, again, another one of my mentors and relative. John Lee always shared with us, and in his memory, as he's going to be buried tomorrow, I hope to God it is not buried with him, what I'm about to share. He said in early, I think it's the late 70s, very early 80s, he and about 5 male teachers got together and they each gave $500, I think, thereabouts, I formed the Teachers Credit Union. Now, sir, the history for the Teachers Credit Union is online because I looked it up. After he said it, I said, man, let me go see if this is true. And sure enough, again, I can't remember specific dates, but I know within 10 years, they'd already gone multi-million. So it's written, it's on the site. And I want to say in 10 years, it's 10 million, but I'm sure. So I'm saying that to say, cooperative credit unions are alive and well in many countries around the world. And so we have them here, but I'm saying that to say we have existing ones, but even if some persons who have a little extra income, the church could form a formalized legal counsel board with accountants to protect the investment and insure it. And then some of that money can be used as a pool in the time of disaster, but also as a buffer, because they said that when COVID hit, not many Bahamians had $1,000 on their bank account. And so I'm just saying that, sir, because I'm from Fox Hill. And sir, I am telling you, I do not need ASUS because I'm very frugal. I don't need it. But I am in one now. I am in one, and I will put most of my salary in one to help the others.
Amen.
And it keeps me disciplined. So that's because right now, sir, we have to find ways to help people so that they do not lose their homes and they begin to find jobs and have an economic base. People helping people. So that's my last word, economic empowerment. Thank you, sir. God bless you once again.
All right. And then, of course, as we close again, we want to say thank you. We will take all of your advice and counsel and connections. The world is built on the principle of collaboration. God made Adam for Eve, and then they had children and family. It's all important that we need to interact with one another. Let me conclude by giving you a big, big thank you. We want to thank those of you who have been here with us. Yes, Marisa Mason-Smith, my classmate from Bahamas Academy, has been here with us. Dave Williams, he likes to hear talking about that financial ASU business. And last but not least, all of this is only possible when we seek the Lord. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all of these things will be added unto us as we seek to help those who are in need. That's what Jesus came, to seek and to serve. And we're here to serve the people and to serve our communities and to do the best for them that we can. God never asks us to do more than he empowers us to do. And so again, Sister Elaine and Brother Johnson and Sister Higgs, notice I would call you Sister Higgs. Thank you, Doc, for being here with us and your team. And we look forward to praying with you. One of these days when everything is settled down, I'll come in the office and pray for the entire team and extend God's blessings upon you, because you have a very vital work in our community to help those who are in need. You're doing the work of Jesus. So let us conclude with a word of prayer. I'm going to just pray and then we will sign off this evening. Thanks again to one and all. Thank you for being here. Let us bow our heads. Dear Lord, you have shared with us what is happening in our country, how we can improve, how we can minimize and end now the violence against women and children and even men. We know, Lord, that this is not your desire. You came that we might have life and that we might have it more abundantly. And so now, in your Son's precious name, we commit and we surrender our wills to your will. Be with the Department of Social Services. Lord, bless Dr. Higs as she leads out and her team. Give them wisdom, give them patience, give them all the resources that they need to accomplish the work that you've called them to do. And may we partner with them to help to accomplish and to benefit the people of this country and beyond. Hear our prayer, and we thank you for this session tonight. We thank you for the professionalism. We thank you for the facts. But most of all, we thank you for Jesus. And this is our prayer. Amen.